Hello there, Karla Harris, and welcome to Atlanta Jazz Festival's virtual series in the tradition. My name is Ray Cornelius, and I'm super excited to be talking to you today. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Ray. It's great to be here. Great to be
You
with
look
you.
you look amazing in your pink there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm craving color right now, getting into spring and just, tired of the dreary, so craving color.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was really excited when the Atlanta Jazz Festival reached out to us regarding this virtual series. I think all of us are super excited that the festival will be returning this fall. And so when they said, well, hey, we want to partner with you guys, we want to talk to these amazing artists that will be returning to the Atlanta stage. Of course, the station was excited. I think all of the announcers and all the staff were excited because I think just like everyone else, we cannot wait to get back together to listen to some great music. And as I was doing some research about you and looking at your schedule from last year and from 2019, you were very, very busy. You were sort of caught up in a whirlwind of new music. You had some performances lined up, and I looked at your schedule, and I believe it was March 17th of 2020. And the title of your blog, your journal blog, was "When Everything Changes." or when everything changed for you. And so I want to go back to that because I think we're now living in a new world, a world that we did not expect a year ago, a world that we did not foresee a year ago. And I wanted to know, how have you been able to maintain and keep your sanity as an artist, as someone who was, like I said, in the midst of performances and writing new music and things of that nature? How have you been able to survive this new world that we're living in right now?
Mm. I love that question because I had the opportunity. Well, I had a friend, a colleague, whom is also a mentor of mine, a bassist by the name of Tom Kennedy, who actually lives in New York. And he and I have worked together in the past. He's been an important figure in my musical career, um, going back to 2004, actually. So I got a call one day last April, and Tom said he was busy writing. He wasn't on the road. He usually tours with people like Mike Stern and Lee Ritenour and Dave Weckl and the like. And of course, they weren't doing that. And for his sanity, he was sitting in his home studio working on new music and composing. And he was looking for somebody to do lyrics and to sing his songs. And so he wrote me, he called me up one day and he said, well, actually, he texted me and he said, I have a song that I want you to do, and you're going to have to practice because he tends to write things that are challenging. And so what this did was it led me into a world where I was very soon in the pandemic. I was working on writing lyrics. I was learning how to record remotely, which was a brand new thing for me. If you had told me, Ray, if you had told me a year and a half ago that I would be converting a closet of mine into a home studio and working on, Pro Tools and buying gear and becoming a gearhead and kind of nerdy about this stuff, I would have told you no way. That was never my thing. I let the professionals handle that, right, over the years. So it's been a growth experience over the past year. I've gained a whole new set of skills, and I've been able to maintain a really deep level of creativity because I've been writing and I've been singing. So all last summer, all last fall, I did some outdoor things last fall, so that was creatively nurturing and got to get back out there. But for the bulk of the last year, um, I've been fortunate to be able to still be creative, working on new music remotely, like so many people. But I didn't know that was coming. I had no idea. Yeah.
Speaking of writing music, you had entered some new music into a songwriting competition. So let's give us an update on that as well.
Well, I actually entered that in, I guess it was the end of 2019. It feels like it's been more than a year, like everybody says, this has been a long decade this past year, right? But yeah, and I had two songs that were chosen as finalists in the competition that were on my last CD, and that was really my first outing as a songwriter. So to have two songs make it into the finalist round for the first time that I kind of went out there with some original music was really deeply gratifying. This to be a songwriter is fulfilling in a way artistically that nothing else is to me. I really enjoy it. So yeah, that was great news to get.
And I was going to ask, where do you get the inspiration? I always ask a lot of songwriters, do you find yourself getting inspiration in the park? Do you find it on an airplane? Do you find it at the beach? Where do you get the inspiration to write your music?
Oh, it's funny you say in the park because the first group of songs that I wrote, I got a lot of inspiration while I had just moved to Atlanta from Portland, Oregon, where I had lived for 8 years and had moved there from my hometown of St. Louis. And as somebody new here, after it was a really big transition to move here from the North Pacific Northwest. I wasn't doing a lot. I was taking a lot of walks. I was, decorating this place and taking care of my family, and started to get ideas while I was on my walks, actually in nature. I found that having taking what they call forest baths and having feet on earth is what I call it. Feet on earth is very nurturing in a way, and I had just ideas popping into my head during that time. It was a real creatively active time for me. Um, so that being said, I also got ideas. I also get ideas from reading poetry. um, that's really been important over the past year because this is the first time that I've done lyrics for somebody else's compositions, for somebody else's, saying, here's a piece of music, and a melody, can you write lyrics for this? So poetry has been a big source of inspiration for that, and, imagery. Yeah.
Carla, let's get into your style. So, when I had an opportunity to do a little bit of research about you and looking at some of your live performances and videos, I was like, oh my gosh, I can so see you. It's almost like you're one of those type of performers that I can see you in a small, smoky jazz club, but then I can also see you on Broadway. I mean, you really give a wide range performance, everything from the classics to the standards to Broadway tunes, as well as pop singles as well, and original music. So, how would you categorize yourself, your style, if you will?
So I would I would categorize it as a, a woven tapestry of many different threads, the threads that come from all of my influences growing up, um, musically, culturally, geographically, all of those things. And um, lately, I've been more contemporary jazz, I would say, but I still, as far as my recordings go, but I have different, I present different, I try very hard to create shows and concerts that the particular audiences that I'm performing for will enjoy and relate to and appreciate, while also trying to challenge a little bit too, doing some different things that maybe wouldn't necessarily be expected. So, but I really do. I draw. I mean, I'm a child of the. I grew up in the '70s and the '80s, and so I've got that in my deep in me. I have my parents' jazz collections, and they're eclectic R&B, the '60s R&B. I have all of that in me too. I love classical music. All of many different genres come into play. So, and then singing styles as well, um, because I grew up singing so many different kinds of music. I like to think of the voice as like a piano, in that it's an instrument that you should be able to play anything on. I mean, I'm not an opera singer. There are limitations to that, but I like to go in a lot of different ways, stylistically. Yeah. And that's why I love jazz, because it's about the improvisation and where you are in the present and how you're feeling it in the moment. Yeah.
Let's talk about your journey here in Atlanta. You've been here for quite some time. How has the city, and when I think of Atlanta, we truly are the epicenter of American culture, whether it's music, whether it's theater, whether it's art, or whether it's just pop culture. How has Atlanta, the city, influenced your career as a jazz artist?
It's been great. It was funny because when I lived in Portland and we found out we were going to be relocating to Atlanta, um, I was so rooted there that I thought, oh gosh, I don't know, do I really want to make this move? But I felt like I was meant to, and I just felt like I was supposed to come here. And it's opened so many doors. The level of musicianship here is wonderful, and it's different, and it's very diverse, and the audiences are so diverse and so kind, so welcoming. Um, I think that artistically, I've grown a lot because the opportunities have been bigger in a way here. Um, and I've done a lot of new things, worked on music that I didn't imagine myself working on before, and also teaching. Um, I'm the vocal jazz instructor at Kennesaw State University. I started the vocal jazz program there as part of their very dynamic and wonderful jazz studies department led by Sam Skelton. And that has been a whole nother area of growth for me artistically. So it's just gotten richer in Atlanta. It's gotten, it's gotten wider and deeper artistically here.
And let's talk about your position at Kennesaw State because when I saw that, I was really impressed by that because not, to be able to, as a student, to have a person that is living and breathing exactly what it is that you are pursuing in terms of your career, I think is so important. And the fact that you're giving back, because I see this as a way of you giving back to the next generation, how has that enriched your life as an artist and as a jazz singer? How has that actually helped you in your career?
Well, I tell you, Ray, I love I love working with these students. I love being with these young artists. They're inspiring because they're so new to it. They're passionate about it, and they're not at all jaded. Yes, um, they're like sponges. It also keeps me on my toes because they are exposing me to new music, and so it's bringing in fresh music for me and inspiration for me. And as they learn, it reinforces things that I have learned, but I'm also learning new things as they learn too. And then just to be able to kind of be this support group of singers in this business, and to kind of tell them, here's what to expect, and here's how to handle this, and here's how to handle that, as far as I can. Um, it makes it for a very nice group of camaraderie too. We're singer sisters and we are singer brother. I have one male in the group, and we are there for one another. And that's another thing that's been great. I really try to instill that we are not here to compete with one another. Each of us has a unique voice. You know, your voice is your instrument, and there's no other instrument like it. It is yours and yours alone, and everybody's has a beautiful essence to it. So we are just there to appreciate the uniqueness and the mastery in one another, not to compete with one another, because I think a lot of times, especially with singers, you can you can feel that vibe, and and I'm not immune to it either, but I want to kind of try to balance that out. So
Speaking of music, let's talk about your latest project and how did you determine which songs you wanted to use on the album? Because I would imagine just like an artist or just like a director or someone that's putting a movie together, you have a variety of things that you want to choose from, but then only a few of them actually make it on the project. So how did you decide which songs would actually make it on your current album?
in the liner notes, I think to some people it wouldn't necessarily make sense, the grouping of songs on certain elements album, because so many people are used to a concept album where there's a theme. Well, my prior record, the Brubeck Songbook, was a themed album. Certain elements was not. Certain elements in my liner notes, I said, in the end, these songs are only tied together by my affinity for them, for each of the songs. I chose them because I loved each of the songs, or the origin of the song had a particular meaning for me. So, for example, there are, I think, three songs on the record that are written by, other people, but they were arranged for me by very dear friends of mine. And I just, I loved the arrangement. I loved the person who did the arranging. In one case, a friend of mine arranged Bill Withers' Lean on Me, and he passed. My friend passed before the record was released. And so it was really important for me to have that on the album. Um, it was just because I loved each of these songs. And the originals on there were my babies. They reached my babies. I had to have my babies on the record. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna I'm not gonna sing all the other songs and leave my babies in the corner. Yeah, so
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Carla, you have been singing for over 30 years. What has been the secret to your longevity? Because when you think about the music career, it is very heavily male driven, and you have females that have, you kind of have a hard time sometimes making it in that male driven um, uh, industry. But how have you been able to maintain who you are and not have to compromise, not have to change for the industry, but you've been able to adapt and kind of create this world for yourself? What has been your secret?
Um, okay. I'm stubborn for one thing. For another thing, to there have been a few times in my life in during my career where I have not sung for a period of time. After I had a baby, for example, I was out for a while, or I had two, so after each one, and each time I didn't, each time I stopped, and because I thought, this is it's nice to relax. It's nice not to. It's just nice not to have to worry about, oh, am I going to catch a cold before before the gig or whatever. And then all of a sudden, I started feeling out of sorts each time. And I realized that it was like, I was missing something. It was like not breathing fully. Or I like to describe it as maybe like a three-legged stool with one of the legs missing when I wasn't working, when I wasn't singing out. So um, I think it's just for me, it was more, well, I just feel compelled to do this. So, one foot in front of the next, one day at a time, trying to find my way. Because I've moved twice and had to start over twice in two different cities. And it's just a matter of wanting to do it and finding people who I could grow with, uh, who were nurturing and who could help me grow in my craft. Um, and I remember one time the first time I met Freddie Cole, I had a conversation with him and I had a young cousin with me at the time. And she's a visual artist. And she said to him, we were at Birdland. This was many years ago. And I was there to watch Freddie. And afterwards, she said to him, Mr. Cole, what do you tell a young artist who wants to, do what you do or do their art in their way? And he had a very simple answer. He said, you just keep doing it. You just you just get out there and you just keep doing it. And that's really it.
The title of this virtual series is In the Tradition. And when I think of the word tradition, I think of something that has sustained throughout the years, something that has remained over the years. What is that common thread or that common thing that has remained over the years for you in your career?
As far as artistically, well, it's the voice. As far as traditions go, I would say that what pulled me into this, what pulled me into singing jazz was the richness of the compositions. And I wanted to sing great lyrics and great melodies. And where I found that was in the Great American Songbook. And so that was what initially drew me into it. And of course, listening to, like I said, my mom and dad's albums when I was young, and just hearing that. And I've always loved words. I've always been a writer. You probably, saw in my bio that when I was a little girl, I would wake up on Saturday mornings, and instead of, like my sisters would run in and watch cartoons, but I wanted to stay in bed when the house was really quiet. And I would get out my spiral notebook and my pencils, and I would just write little short stories. I was always working on some little short story. And I've always loved words. And so I was always keyed into lyrics when I was listening to music. And then I wanted to sing those lyrics. So it's been about the stories and the storytelling. I think that's the common thread for me as I kind of, boil it down. It's the storytelling as a singer. That's the common thread all throughout everything I've done, every different style, wherever I've done it, with, whomever I've done it with. It's about telling the stories of the song.
We are in a brand new world, and as we continue to open up, and like we mentioned at the top of this conversation, that the Atlanta Jazz Festival will be returning to Atlanta this fall, a lot of states, a lot of areas, a lot of clubs and venues are starting to open up. How are you going to approach performing now in this new COVID environment?
Well, it's tricky. It's tricky. Currently, looking out over the next few months, currently, I'm not yet doing indoor things. I'm doing outdoor things, and I'll continue to do outdoor things for at least a few more months. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see how things go. I do have something indoors planned for October, so fingers crossed. October of this year, fingers crossed. And I'm booking things for 2022 that are, of course, indoor. And heaven help us, we've got to be okay by then, right? Um, but I'm being careful. I'm some of my students have gotten COVID, and they're young and they sailed through it. you know, I don't know how it would impact me. So I'm being careful. And I'll probably get the jab when I can. I got to my doctor says I have allergies, so I have to wait until I can get it in a doctor's office. So
Mhm.
I think everybody has to really be consulting with their physician, their personal physician, and I mask up, and we've done it all different kinds of ways over the past years, but always outside. Yeah. It's
You've
interesting, and virtual things as well. I have some virtual things coming up too. Yeah.
I was going to say you've done a lot throughout the course of your career. Is there something that you haven't done that is still on your bucket list of things to do that you like to share?
Well, let's see. Um, well, yeah, I mean, I'd like to perform. There's some people I'd like to perform with, but I don't know if I want to say. There are people who are past that I wished I could have performed with. Does that count?
And do tell, please tell us who, because and I asked that because over this last year, we've lost a good number of jazz icons. I mean, this coronavirus has really taken out some really really good people. And when you mentioned, Freddie Cole, I mean, he was basically a living legend right here in Atlanta, and had an opportunity to meet him several times when he came to the station and to see him perform. So, was there someone that passed away that you would have loved to have collaborated with?
Well, I'm going way back now. I'm going
Okay,
way back. I think,
okay.
but I've always loved Bill Evans, and I often said that if I could have done a ballad with Bill Evans on piano and Lester Young on saxophone, that to me sounds heavenly. I love Lester Young. I love him. So Ray Brown on bass would be good. Yeah, there are some places that I'd like to play. I'd love to I'd love to do some clubs in New York. I'd love to get overseas again. I did some work in France a few years ago. I'd like to get back. There's somebody in the UK who keeps asking when I'm going to get over there. So maybe someday that would be fun to do as well. Um, I'm just interested in doing the new music that we've been working on, and I'd love to do that live. So that's something that I want to work on as well, making happen. One of the things that I'm excited about in 2022 is we're putting together a small tour where we're going to be including areas that are what I call under jazzed. And we're going to go into some more rural areas uh, with a jazz program, and get to not only perform for the grown-ups in town, but we're going to go into the schools and do some programs for the kids too, and try to be those jazz ambassadors, which is another tradition in our genre, right? Um, and open some perspectives, hopefully, and broaden some horizons, and create a bigger world for people.
we're starting to see a renaissance, if you will, of jazz artists, their lives being portrayed in films and on television. There was the release of the Billie Holiday film with Andra Day. You also had the Miles Davis documentary last year. A lot of really good, meaty stories about these jazz artists. And since you are a storyteller, is there an artist that you would love to see their life, on the screen that you think maybe has not been under that spotlight or hasn't really been given a lot of recognition and or credit? And who would that artist be?
Nancy Wilson? And could I be in it, please?
And what is it about her and her career?
Our picture back here, it's watching over me as I'm doing this. I met her in 2010. She was one of my very influential. She was one of those. Her Something Wonderful album was in my parents' stack, and she was an early, quote unquote teacher of mine. Just listening to her music, um, I think that I think one of the reasons that I don't know, she wasn't, as far as I know, her life maybe story wasn't as dramatic as some of the artists who have been in biopics, or had their stories told in biopics. But there's value in that too. There's value in seeing how a woman manages to have a life, a family, and keep it together in this business, and do her thing. And I'm sure there are lots of stories there that we don't know about. But yeah, I think that she was an elegant and you know beautiful vocalist, song stylist, as she referred to herself. She didn't think of herself as a jazz singer, but she was a jazz singer. She could swing like nobody. I mean, she could swing her behind off. She was amazing. And yes, I would love to see that. I would watch that. I would read a book. I can't even find a biography on her out there.
Well, maybe that's something you should write since you love writing stories and telling stories.
I like the way you think, right? Another project on the plate there, though.
Let's talk about, Nina Simone has been quoted several times as saying that it's an artist's responsibility to reflect the times. How has this past year and the things that we've experienced in this country in terms of the social justice issues, Black Lives Matter, and all of the things that we've seen on television and throughout the African American community, how has that affected or influenced your music and some of the new music that you have been writing?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We have a song that's called it's called Starlike with a K, not Starlight, but Starlike with a K. And it very much is. It was written right following the protests and the unrest last summer, spring and summer, and it very much was influenced by that. And the theme of the song is, well, that we are connected. For one thing, we are connected. We are one, and what happens to one happens to all, whether we realize it or not. And we are more than just these, you know, bodies walking around on this planet here in Earth School, as I like to refer to it. Right? Um, you know, I wish that our interconnectedness was was more of a point of awareness, and I wish that we talked about that more in our media, and I think we do a lot in our art, but I wish that people got that at a really deep level. But that's the theme of one of the songs. I find that my when I'm making up my set list now for concerts, there are songs that I want to sing that are more along of I would say like a philosophical vein, um, spiritual vein, in the lyric content, and that's a change over the past few years as well. Yeah.
what can we expect when you do hit the stage this fall at the Atlanta Jazz Festival? And what can fans look forward to when you sing that first note?
Well, I'm going to be there with a wonderful group of performers, a wonderful group of musicians. I'll be there with a band of six, possibly seven, and I've got some of the the great players in town. So the music is going to be popping, and I'm going to be doing things from the Certain Elements CD. So there'll be a lot of contemporary jazz. There'll be some blues in there. I think I'm going to put in a couple of the new songs that I've been working on over the past year for sure. One of those is a great Latin number that I love, real up tempo Latin number. And I probably will do that song I was just talking about, Starlight, as well. But there'll be some of the songs that people have really responded to and loved from the Certain Elements album, including Cherish, which got a lot of airplay on WCLK over the past few years. That's the remake of the song by the Association that did well, and then I'll be doing a couple of things from my past albums. From the Brubeck album, we'll be doing, Take Five. We have a great version of Take Five that we'll be covering, that I'll be doing as well. But it'll be the high energy. We've got percussionist, drums, rhythm section, expanded rhythm section, and I may even have a couple of background vocalists. I'm thinking about putting some background vocals in this show, so I'm looking forward to it. I really want to. I want to. I really want to bring a nice sonic and visual experience. So
You mentioned
looking
earlier that
forward
you're a
to it.
oh, I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I was just going to say I'm looking forward to it very much to being there.
I was going to say, you mentioned earlier that you're a mother of two, and just wanted to know, are your kids following in your footsteps, and would you want them to have a career in the music industry?
No, they are not, and not so much. Although I will tell you that they both have great voices, and my youngest in particular, he dabbles in composing, and he's done that since he was a teenager. So, but he's in uh, virtual digital marketing. Sorry, lost the words there because it's not my thing at all. But he's in digital marketing. He's great at that, brilliant at that. And my youngest is, computer coder, and and he has a great voice, but he won't let you know ever. So now I'm the only musician in the family, and one of me is enough. One is enough.
This
But my husband
industry,
is very
oh, I'm sorry.
helpful. I was just going to say my husband is very helpful and very supportive in what I do, and he's just been great over the past couple of years, helping me to juggle things.
This industry is constantly changing, and sometimes you hear, this is jazz, this isn't jazz, where is jazz going, can we get the traditional jazz? What are your views on that? Because when you talk to a lot of artists, it's, with jazz being improvisational, it's all about kind of going with the flow. Or do you want to, should jazz stay, where it has been over all of these decades? What's your thoughts on that?
I think that it can be all of those things. I just I don't get the I think it's a pointless discussion for people to argue over that. Jazz has always been organic. Jazz has always been evolving with with the artists who create it. You know, it's not a static art form by any means at all. That's why it's jazz, and so it has to evolve. It must, because that is what it is. And we can enjoy it all. We can enjoy the songs and the recordings from the 40s and the early days. And I mean, I love it. I eat it up, and I love to hear how people approach that and create their own thing with it too. And then I love the people who are coming in and doing things that are completely different. And it's meant to grow like that. So I'm all for the changes. Our ears want to hear new things, and our ears want to hear what they are used to too. So let's please it. Let's please both sides.
Carla, was there ever a point in your career where you said, I think I've had enough. I think I might want to do something else, or was there ever a point where you said, I don't know if I can do this, if I can go forward? And if so, oh, okay, we done? Wrap it up. Got it. Okay. I can go on and on.
That was a
Carla
good question.
Harris. Yeah. Carla Harris, thank you so very. Oh, we can. Okay, as the last. Got it. Got it. Okay. So Carla Harris, has there ever been a point where you said, you know what, this is it. I don't know if I can go on, and if so, what was that thing that gave you the inspiration to just keep going after your dreams?
Yes. Um, the thing that has given me the inspiration to keep going is that I keep thinking of new things that I want to sing and new songs that I want to write. I do think that there'll come a time, and also I've been encouraged by people who have said, "You're no, you have to keep, you have to keep going. You have to keep making music. You have to keep, doing your thing." But I might at some point do it in a different way. I might lean more into the teaching. I might lean more into the recording, and less in the live performances. Um, Especially as a singer, uh, it's a very kind of athletic endeavor. At least it is for me. It requires a lot of self care and a lot of constant practice, and to keep the muscles working, right? And at some point, it might be nice to just chill. But we'll see when I think I'll know when that time is. I'm not ready yet, but yeah.
Well, Carla Harris, thank you so very much for being our guest today on the Atlanta Jazz Festival's virtual series titled In the Tradition. We so look forward to seeing you gracing the Atlanta Jazz Festival stage this fall, and cannot wait to get out there in historic Piedmont Park and listen to all the beautiful music from your past albums, as well as some of the new music and new classics, I'll say, that you're going to be
Yeah.
performing on that stage.
Thank you so much, Ray. I really appreciate it. This has been a great conversation, and I appreciate all your questions. Very thoughtful. And thanks so much. And thanks for having me, Atlanta Jazz Festival. To you.